So let's move on to some of the zones in the game. It's quite a diverse number of zones. You've got, the ones in Solomon Island. You've got Egypt, Transylvania, Venice, Tokyo, Agartha, London, Seoul, New York. It's quite a few. Which ones stick in your mind? What sort of had an impact on you?
Um, I think those initial missions in New England. Just that setting was just so well done, so moody. It feels like you're walking through a New England town. Um, just the storyline of the fog and the people turning into zombies, but they don't want to use the Z word. Some of them, and then definitely uh, Innsmouth Academy. I love those characters. I'm a Jeffrey Combs fan.
Oh, well, yeah, there were some cracking voice actors.
Yeah, and I love his character. The whole trio of characters at the Academy. Uh,
Yeah, there were definitely some very iconic locations, weren't there? Like Innsmouth Academy, like the Atlantic Island theme park. I think for me is an
yes,
absolutely
definitely.
awesome place because it's
Hmm.
just like one. It's just a little self-contained theme
Yeah.
park,
Hmm.
um, and,
Yeah,
and it's got its own little story.
yeah. So I think when I think of the Secret World, that's usually those are the first locations and characters that I mean the first location
Mm.
characters you meet, but that one really sticks with me as far as what the game's like.
It was quite nice as well as that. Even though you had the larger stories, each zone had its little sub stories. So,
Hmm.
the theme park had its little set of missions, and then the academy had its little set of missions. You go down to the lighthouse and meet the author, and he had his own little set of missions. And sometimes they sort of crossed over, but more often than not, they were little sort of self-contained episodes within the whole.
Yeah, yeah, and then even the people. I mean, I think this goes into the larger game, but particularly it stands out to me in that location. Just the people had their own little mini stories that were touching or scary. Like whether you're talking to the deputy and he's talking about his memories of the bag of kittens, and you're just
Mm.
like, oh god. Uh, um, just yeah, those little stories within stories, and yeah, just the atmosphere. I'm an atmosphere junkie, and that location really did that for me.
I think the sound design really sort of helps with that. When I was talking to Joel, I mentioned the one sound that sticks in my mind was the familiars in the academy. That little
Yeah.
scream they did, which was just it's like nails on a chalkboard.
Hmm.
It's it's horrific, but it's also fantastically designed, and some of the monster designs are just awesome.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Anytime you get a good monster sound where you're almost hesitant to kill them because you're like, oh, it's going to make that noise.
Yep, those familiars again. One thing as well is after launch, we had the auxiliary weapons that came in, the rocket launcher, the whip, and the chainsaw, and all that. Um, how did they come about? Did you have any bearing on that? Was it
uh,
the no? Well, not the whip. It was the flamethrower in A Dream to Kill, wasn't it?
I, yes, yeah, that was the flamethrower. No, I don't think. I mean, I would have been involved in maybe writing descriptive text, but other than that, I don't think. I don't. I don't recall how those initially came about. If that was an initial part of the plan, if that kind of developed organically. Um, I remember using the chainsaw a lot. I like the chainsaw.
And what about the dungeons? Did you have any input within that? Because they have their own story and lore and whatnot, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. I'm certainly not in the initial dungeons, other than putting lore into them. But like a Dream to Kill and Onward, the uh, the quest designers usually had pretty solid ideas and things they wanted, but sometimes we would have meetings. way ahead of time to kind of bounce ideas, see what worked narratively. Um, but usually there was a skeleton of kind of a structure, and then I'd add to it. Like we thought, like,
Mm.
well, we need to get across this idea. How do we do it? And, is it something that a text you find? Is it just a corpse? Something environmental that you find? And we kind of go from there.
So, did you have a favorite dungeon or one that you particularly enjoyed playing?
Um, I think I'm a fan of the nursery, particularly because of the again the creepy mood with the toys, and then we'd worked a song in from someone that we had met in Montreal. One of the developers, Ramon, had took me to this little bar or club. He's like, you got to hear this song, and I'm like, oh, okay. We're sitting there, and the song comes on, and it's getting played like with a little toy xylophone, and it's being sung creepy. And that's the "I Walk Into Empty" song, and
Oh,
like,
that
oh my gosh, that's got to go in there. And that just felt really cool to like hear something live and be like, that's got to go in there, and we were able to make that happen, and the lyrics from it just worked really well with I worked that into like I think it's painted on the walls. I walked some of the lyrics from that song and certainly into some of the other text entries, but um, that 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 I think maybe was my favorite.
Okay, so other than the lore, item descriptions, and your general sort of writing, did you have any influence on any other aspects of the game? Maybe an
Um,
idea or something which you took and ran with, or something maybe that others listened to you about.
I mean, certainly we all kind of contribute organically in that we're talking at lunch and this and that. We give each other ideas. Uh, Certainly a lot of cosmic horror and Lovecraftian kind of influence that was already in the game, but I certainly pushed that and um, um, I would say I don't remember whose idea initially it was. There's a section of the game where you have we have these little games within the game where you go to the I think it's the internet cafe and you can play these sort of text
Oh
adventures.
yes, I remember. I remember that one. Yes, it's. I think it was one of the issues. You pick it up from the woman at the top of Scorched Desert.
Yeah. Um, so I was able to do some cosmic horror in that. Uh, oh my! You know what? I'm going to step to the other side of the room really quick, and I will show you something I directly put into the game.
Oh please.
So this hat, which I think we were doing, I think Ramon and I were doing like Friday or Thursday streams where we talk about the game, and for whatever reason, I was wearing this hat for those, and so that became the image I was known for. I think there was some fan drawings with it. So we at one point we're like, we got to stick the hat in the game. So there is a game. There's an item in the game, I believe, called Nyarlathotep Top Hat, described as a cosmic outer god thing in hat form. Um, so this hat is directly in game, and it was surreal being able to play in the game and wearing the hat that I could physically wear.
That's wonderful. It's actually not a bad hat, actually.
Yeah.
Okay,
I bought the hat initially and the eye separately, and combined the two.
so I guess when the game launched, I think it's fair to say that reception was middling. There were those of us who really enjoyed it, others not so much. Um, if you were to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
Well, again, at initial launch, I was just involved in the lore writing, but I think I don't know, getting the word out better maybe, because I remember I think the year that it came out, I was at Gen Con and telling a friend about the game. They're like, "Oh yeah, I definitely got to play that when it comes out." And I'm like, "It's out." They're like, "Oh," uh, and I don't know if that was just my anecdotal input from that friend, or if that was a larger reaction where people just didn't know. So definitely that. I don't know, because again, I wasn't involved till late. I wasn't directly involved till later, other than the lore. But I think if I did some experiment like our little Twitterverse role playing, definitely doing that from the get go, because that got some fun engagement. That got some hardcore engagement once players were interacting on that level and going like, "Holy crap, there's stuff happening on Twitter with the characters that are reacting to me, that are reacting to things I'm posting." That you make some very loyal players that way once they're involved on that level.
Yeah, I think if the idea of being able to play with the people behind the game as well, whether that be as an ARG or actually within the game,
Mm-hmm.
is definitely a draw. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so you became lead writer from A Dream to Kill, Tokyo, and beyond. Is there anything that you remember or you've encountered since when playing, and you think, actually, that probably not my best work?
Um. Hmm, good, tough question. I'm sure there's something. I'm sure there's something I've run. It's not coming to mind right now. I'd say maybe some item descriptions, except I have fun with item descriptions, even though it's a little such a light little bit of storytelling or text. And I usually had a pretty good feedback loop, to where if there was something where it was like, "Josh, this just isn't working," it would get caught pretty well. I am blanking on that. I don't. And it's not saying that
Yep.
everything I wrote was perfect. I'm sure, because there must be something where I was like, once I saw it, but I am forgetting now.
No
Maybe my
worries.
mind is mercifully blanketing me from my worst mistakes.
All right, then there's another one for you to think about. The secret world. Got the word secret
Mm-hmm.
in it. There are lots of secrets in the game. I think that's kind of the whole point of
Yes.
it. Are there any that you put into the game, maybe that we wouldn't necessarily have noticed? Some little Easter
Um,
eggs or tidbits that we can go and look out for.
in in Tokyo, there are some personal character dramas with some of the characters that you really have to dig into their you click on them and you can have them talk about different subjects. You really got to dig into those, and sometimes from multiple perspectives before you get the full story, including a a doomed romance between Ricky Pagan and, I am blanking on her name. She's in charge of the Love Hotel.
Yeah, I know the one.
um
I can't think of her name either.
mm, it's early for me, so and my brain isn't fully working. Maybe a sip of coffee will revive it. But there is a story. There's some personal drama and history with those characters, particularly her, that isn't just thrown at you. It's not really part of the quests or anything. It just happens to be. And if you go back and forth and talk to them, you realize some tragic miscommunication or misunderstanding, or one believes that they broke up for one reason and one for another, and it's only in there if you kind of really go back and forth and dig between the two of them.
It's one thing I do like is the attention to detail in the Secret World. I was talking to Joel about this. Things just like the extra bits and pieces, as you say, like the personal history with Ricky Pagan. Just things like when you're dead and you go across the Langmore Bridge and you can see the people hanging. It's just the little bits that show the designers and the developers really cared about what it was they were doing. That these don't have to be there. They serve no purpose other than when somebody discovers them, they go, "Ooh, that's really cool."
It's definitely a sign of care in whatever media you're ingesting. If there are things put in that that not every audience is going to find, it might be by accident, it might be, it's when something's put in that is not reaching the algorithm determined widest possible audience. I think that's a little bit of storytelling love by
things that don't have to be there but are because they just are.
Yeah, in the Secret World, the Secret World definitely has a lot of that. There's a lot of love that when you do it in that way.
Okay, which brings us on to cut content. Every game, every film, every story, starts one way and ends another. How much stuff that you've written never made it into the game? Is there anything that you think, oh, do you know what? I wish that had got in there.
Yeah, I mean that is a big part of game writing or just game work in general is it's the heartbreaking things that don't get in for various reasons. I'm trying to think of a particular one. I mean, it just it happens so often. It might even just be a bit of cut text. It could be a whole cut section, a character, something that wasn't voiced. Going on to something that wasn't voiced, and we'd tease the idea around the office, and we talked about it, and never kind of fully gelled of fully voicing the buzzing, which I would have loved to have done. One of the reasons we did the lore the way we did was I love game lore, but when I'm someone who works on story for a living, love story, I will sometimes skip or leave for later a big huge chunk of text like in an Elder Scrolls game where you pick up a book and it's like several pages and it's interesting stuff, but like you're playing a multi-sensory thing right then. It's it can be really hard to focus.
It's like in Mass Effect with the Codex Entries. There is so many of them, and there's so much information that after a while you think, oh, I don't want to read it anymore.
Right, and it's interesting information, but like I want to play. So I love it when. So one reason we did the lore where we did those kind of fragments that you get out of order is that you can read a little fragment quick, you can collect them, and you can always go back to them. If there's a time you're just like sitting around, you just want to, I'm going to read these lore entries, and it's just sort of a collectible thing. But to further improve that, it would be great if you clicked on it and it was told to you while you're playing, because you can. I can listen to an audio story while I do the dishes. I can listen to a lore entry while I kill zombies. Plus, if it had been done and really well sound designed, it could have been a great way to kind of realize this weird multi-voiced creepy thing. And that never happened. And I wish to this day that we had. I wish you could hear what's in my head. Those lore entries go off.
So did you work, or did you have anything to do with the relaunch, the Secret World Legends?
Yes, that would be towards the end of my time at Funcom, I think.
That came out in 2017, wasn't it?
Yeah. You know what? I was probably did some free. So I think I left in 2016. A friend was involved with starting a company in China. It was like, hey, you should work with me again. And I was like, oh, I've been here for 8 years. Maybe I should try. It was the only game company I'd worked for full time. I thought I should try around. But I kept working with Funcom on a freelance capacity. I still do now, actually. But I think, for the relaunch, I maybe did some text for them. In the freelance capacity.
What do you think of the relaunch? Do you think that was a good idea?
Um,
I had a long conversation with Joel about this, and
yeah,
he was very honest.
yeah. I wasn't as directly involved other than writing text, which kind of exists on its own kind of corner of it that's a little divorced from some of those other decisions. Yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing from the reaction of my fellows, maybe that didn't go how they wanted, or I don't know. I haven't played a ton of it. Most of my playing is on the classic TSW. I played a little bit of the relaunch. So I'm not. I don't. I'm not. I'm not really a very good source behind the scenes or in front of the scenes on exactly how it went. But I know there are reactions from fans and devs that uh, yeah, maybe it didn't go quite to plan, or I don't know. It's a hard thing to do because um, what do you do that changes it, that makes it feel like it was worth
Mm.
getting this whole new thing. But how far do you change it where other people are like, no, I remember it this way. It's a tough. I know it was a tough balancing act to do, and mostly I was just in my own happy little corner providing bits of text.
So you say you've played the Secret World. How far did you get? I mean, did you get to the end of the story, or you know?
Um, yeah, not completely. I mean, yes, in that we would test content. So I've played through
Mm.
most locations. I'm trying to remember my main character was probably somewhere in Transylvania, I want to say. But I played through all the Tokyo and stuff beyond, just testing things out.
And what are you working on at the moment? Well, actually, before we come to that, what have you done
Mhm.
since leaving Funcom? What's in your
Um,
portfolio?
I went and worked for a company in China on a doomed project that I don't think has seen any kind of light today, but I did some writing there. From there, I went full freelance, which was fun and scary. Um, and I worked for a short time. I did some freelance work for Ubisoft on Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Uh,
Is that the Greek one?
that's the Greek one. I got to do primarily stuff on the island of Lesbos with Medusa and some other fun bits. Um, I've worked on some ARG games, including the one that announced. Although I don't know if the game itself is coming out. I don't know what the status of it is. Bloodline, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. I've done a lot of tabletop game writing for games like Vampire the Masquerade, and then a bunch of games from Onyx Path Publishing, including so let me look at my bookshelf and see. One of the more latest ones is They Came From Beyond the Grave. There's a series of games called They Came From, etc.
Right.
There's They Came From Beneath the Sea, which you play both the characters and sort of like the actors in bad B or at least schlocky B movie 50s rubber suited atomic monster
That sounds like fun.
movies. And yeah, it's a comedy horror game. Um, the not necessarily the sequel, but the next game in that series was They Came From Beyond the Grave, which is the same premise, but you are playing 60s/70s like Hammer horror era films. Technicolor blood that looks a little too orange. Actors chewing the scenery and just committing to ridiculous scripts, and that's one of my favorite tabletop things I think I've worked on. I've also worked on Pugmire, which is it's sort of D&D, but everyone is dog, cat, and other animal people in a sort of post apocalyptic world where humans have long gone and these uplifted animals are kind of left in this sort of medieval world, but finding relics of the past. And that one's a lot of fun. I am currently working full time for Amazon Game Studios. Initially, I was hired for a Lord of the Rings MMO that
Oh, that one.
tragically, speaking of cutting room floor stuff, the stuff we were working on was really cool. I can't talk about it, but the license got pulled, and these things do happen, especially with big licenses, big contentious licenses sometimes.
Mm.
But the team stayed together because, again, the company liked the work that we were doing. So we are now working on Redacted. We've been that's been interesting though, because I've always worked on things that are already kind of established, or at least partially established. But this was a chance where, as a team, we were just coming up with lots of pitches and starting from just that initial seed of an idea. And we're working on a particular seed now, and we'll see where that goes.
Are you allowed to tell me what it is?
I am not.
Ah, oh, you don't ask, you don't get.
No.
So what's next for Josh?
Well, definitely more of the video game writing. Definitely more of the tabletop game writing. My big love is tabletop games. I would like to play around with streaming some games. Maybe we'll do that with. I would love. This is totally unofficial right now, but I would love to get some of the Secret World devs and run a Secret World tabletop game on stream.
Do you know what? I think that would be amazing. I've certainly mentioned it on my stream that I'd love to get a group of people together and do some Secret World tabletop when that comes out. The guys working on it do really seem to have a passion for it, so it's one I'm keeping my eye on.
Yeah, they're very interested in picking our brains to get to get things right, and not just right, but like what can they do with it to make their own. Where can they go with the game to make it both the Secret World everyone loves, but also put their own stamp on it, advance plot lines, at least in the tabletop version of the world. Where they can go with it, but they're very excited.
Oh, there! I might give you a shout and see if we can do something together.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I'd love to do more with that. I would love to do more with. I love audio fiction, audio drama stuff. I've played with it a few times here and there. I recently had a baby, so that's kind of
congratulations.
Slowed things down. But on the other hand, I get to say things like I've successfully helped create life.
It is alive.
Yes. Oh, it's alive. It's been great and tough, and a few other things have gone on the wayside. But
are you getting any sleep?
a little bit. Luckily, my wife is a morning person and I am a night owl, and we've kind of mostly successfully utilized that to get maybe a little bit more sleep than some parents get, although sometimes it's hard. Yeah, and now we're reaching that 6-month mark where the baby's sleeping a little bit better and I can start thinking about things again.
I must say, a couple of weeks ago with the 10th anniversary stream, when Joel turned up, it was great, and then you got you and Martin to turn up as well. That was kind of icing on the cake because everybody just loved the fact that the devs had turned up and were there just chatting and answering questions. So thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you. No, we still love the game. It's fun to come back to from the various other projects. It's like coming home.
I do hold out hope. It's never going to happen, I know, but Secret World 2 would be wonderful, or some sort of revisiting, maybe even as a single player game.
I don't know of anything in particular at the moment, but it is an IP they have, and I hope they do stuff with it. It's still something where they're giving direct input on the tabletop game and saying like, oh, do this but not this. So there is some interest in what might happen.
Yeah, it would be a shame if they let that lapse, wouldn't it?
I feel like it's going to manifest as something. I don't know what form. We've had things like the park and Moons of Madness.
Yeah, Hide and Shriek. That was fun.
Oh yeah, Hide and Shriek. Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah, I had fun on that. I wrote the. Not that there's a ton of story in that, but there is in the little diary entries and even spell descriptions. There's in fact, there's a character I have in there that never appeared in anything other than this little spell description. She's in several, so it kind of chronicles her life. But this raucous magician named Laughing Jenny is is in these spell descriptions, but several of them. So if you put them all together, you kind of get the chronicles of her really weird life.
I haven't actually played Moons of Madness. It's something I keep on meaning to get around to, and I haven't yet.
That's that is one that definitely there was like a lot of stuff that hit the cutting room floor. There's some ambitious ideas on what to do with the story. I did the writing on that one, and I need to go. I haven't played all the way through it. I've played bits and pieces. I did the writing, but I need to go back and just like play through the finished product.
Right, final question for you. This is your opportunity now because, the guys listening to this and watching this are going to be the ones that have loved playing the game. For me, I started playing, I think it was closed beta 2, back in the days where you applied and you got lucky to be chosen rather than having to buy a founder's pack. There are some parts of game dev at the moment, I really don't like the way it's going. But yeah, so I've been playing Secret World now for 10 years. A lot of the people listening are exactly the same position as me. So what would you say to them, having thought about what's happened over the last 10 years, the game as itself, how it's evolved and relaunched, but these guys are still here, they're still interested, they're still watching you now. So what would you say to them?
I would say thank you for still being here. Secret World was definitely, I mean, you get on an interview, you're always going to want to say like, oh, this project's really special to me or whatever. But, and they are, but the Secret World in particular is one that stuck with me, both the fans, the game itself, the people I got to work with. I don't know. There's a special kernel of something there that I am happy to have been a part of. I'm happy that everyone else is still a part of it, still thinking about it. And I hope that leads into more manifestations of that world, whether it's the tabletop or anything else. But regardless, I'm really glad that I'm glad we've had the history we've had up to this point.
Josh, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been lovely to have you on and to chat about the Secret World with you, and wish you all the best of luck for the future.
Thank you.